Mr. Well Done, the final chapter. Hello again. I'm sorry I haven't written for a while. I've been busy. I have been venturing into the dark every night now, admiring and listening to the soft cries of agony, the growling of the beasts, the pleasant sound of flesh being removed from bone. I listen to it all with my best smile and a hearty chuckle. The smell's just as satisfactory. The strong smell of blood in the air, and the smell of rotting corpses call me outside to take long, slow inhalations. I keep note of particular corpses to continue my study. I was right that there would be a purging. As the world burned in the gasoline that is human ignorance, I laughed. I laughed every time I walked outside. I have gotten my revenge on society for putting me through their monotony. The world is almost as it should be. All the buildings around me have faded into shades of gray and black. They remind me of my childhood home. Hello again. Today I saw a human. It was rather tall with bright blue eyes and red hair. Pretty if you like that sort of thing. She was walking around as though she was being, quote, stealthy. What a fool. What a laugh. If I saw her, the beasts surely did as well, and if they wanted to, they could have done what they wished to her, rip her apart with their bare extremities, break her mind, eat her alive as she struggled and screamed for her life as her flesh and organs were sifted through. It would be so easy. Make no mistake, I would have found pleasure in making this being go through excruciating torment. She had it coming, her having the thought that she could outsmart the beasts. And it will happen. I will endorse you in some life-saving knowledge. If you are some of the few with the capability of working brains, be smart. Do not touch, do not acknowledge, and if you can do this, maybe you can learn to walk among them without fear, and in safety. Befriend the beasts, and you will see such wonderful things. Just do as I do. Hello again. Though I am devoid of any human interaction, I am not alone. In fact, I've never had more friends. Quite often a little grister will come looking for food and it will sit on my lap as I stroke its head and back. The willow men will come to me and we just sit quietly together. We have no need for words. On rare occasions the slender man brings me books on human nature, math, science, truth, and torture. Slendy often sits with me and watches me. Sometimes he looks like he's trying to smile. The Rake, Eyeless Jack, and Smile Dog sometimes bring me a nice snack. There are many more who I share fond memories of. Be aware that even though there are many of them that can be friended, there are those that cannot, such as Laughing Jack, Jeff the Killer, Jane the Killer, the Man That Looked Down, the Joker, Pinkamene and Diane Pie, and so much more. I tell you more of the dangerous ones because those are the ones that you really need to know how to deal with, and because those are the ones looking for you. Hello again. Though rare human company is, it is more enjoyable. I've seen it in the way they talk. Rejoice, for the worthless are dead. A common factor of the dead is that they all seem to be wearing the latest fashions. All their styles look very similar. All of them were into the mundane. All of them were so blind, so ignorant to the dark, hidden, wonderful truth all around them. And they dismissed this truth as figments of their imaginations in order to maintain sanity. Is it sane to ignore truth? If they had opened their minds to things beyond the mundane, they would have survived. They would not have deserved to die. the beasts would not have seen them for what they were, a waste of existence. For most of those who are alive, they understand their place in the universe. They think with the marvelous brains that creatures possess, rather than act like the slimy, parasitic nothings that dictated over the world that are currently being feasted upon. The smart are enjoyable because they think beyond the mundanity. That is why they are not dead. Hello again. Today, the beasts did something unexpected. Not at all disturbing. In fact, I quite liked it. But it was odd for them. They had propped up the smoldering bodies of the worthless using branches from the surrounding trees. The bodies were not ordered in any way except they all faced the door to my log cabin. There was something else odd. Each of the bodies had rough carvings in their flesh. Each of the carved faces were more or less familiar to me. A lot of the faces were carved into long, gushing smiles that were stitched up to be exaggerated. Some of them had their faces removed entirely, and their skin had been stretched and stitched to cover the exposed wound to make the faces look completely blank. Some of their jaws were shattered, and teeth and pieces of bone hung from thin slivers of bright red meat. I smiled and let out my typical chuckle and admired the scene. I gathered the bodies, took what was edible of them, and left the rest for a hungry beast. What a marvelous surprise, I thought. Hello again. Last night, the beasts did something odd, something wrong. As I was taking my nightly stroll, they watched me. Note, they rarely ever glanced at me, but this time they stared. The look was not a hungry look, though I could see in their eyes a purpose, and that purpose was intended towards me. They looked as though they had to do something very important, yet there was hesitation, even a hint of guilt. All the creatures that typically wore wide, stretched smiles seemed ashamed to move any facial muscles at all. I swear I saw tears running down their faces. They had never shown such a bitterness towards any task. They always did it with their default emotion. They had never hesitated. For the first time in my life, I am disturbed. You will take this as a lie. But you see, I've never had a reason to be unsettled, so this discomfort was gut-clenching. It felt as though somebody had slowly squeezed my innards into grounded meat. I found this fear both amusing and disgusting. Amused by my own ignorance. I find it funny to catch myself acting a fool. Disgusted by the same thing that caused joy. My ignorance. Disgusted that this fear might be the beginning of becoming like the squirmy parasites that ruled the world and met their well-deserved demise. I find it disgusting enough that I'm related to the once more disgusting corpses that are scattered about in pieces. I feel no remorse for my fellow humans, but I do care for myself. I am better than anyone who ever lived. I alone, and this sickness, this fear, cannot be tolerated in myself, even with its amusement. Fear is the very closest thing to sin. Hello again. I don't have much time. Stop it! I remember the beasts. They had broken down the door to my little one-room cabin. They used nothing but their blood-stained claws and teeth. They dragged me through the forest, past hundreds, maybe thousands of dismembered bodies. The trip was very uncomfortable. Rusty nails, scrap metal, and thorns dug themselves deeply into every corner of my body, every hole gushing with dark red blood. I didn't mind the rough trip. I had been given the opportunity to see my typical walk in fast motion, fully experience the whole walk sped up. the effect was thrilling. They dragged me into a large room, looking like a lab of some kind. It was lit dimly, and the flames from below the test tubes made shapes dance wildly on the wall. Towards the end of the room, there was a large table with latches built into it. They laid my limp body on the table and tightened the latches around my abdomen, arms, and legs until the pressure cut bloody grooves into my skin. They adjusted the chair to the upright position. Though my body was in shock, my mind was not. I looked around and for the first time saw my captors' faces. It was all of them. Every variant of beast, every kind was huddled in that room. I looked around in puzzlement. Why did they gather here together? I thought. A creature I had yet to see walked in front of them all. It was short because the lower half of its body was completely gone. It had Sky Knight black skin, large arms, bony fingers, yellow eyes, and a round face that looked accustomed to smiling. Yet its look was stoic at the moment. All the beasts looked at it as if it deserved their unquestioned loyalty. The being dragged itself over to me. It seemed elderly and physically weak. It seemed painful for it to move, but it crawled to me as if it were worth the pain to face me. It spoke to me in a deep, elderly voice. This is what he said to me.
Hello, Mr. Well Done. Sorry for our forceful removal of you. We felt it necessary.
I asked it why I was there and what they wanted to do with me, and I demanded my freedom. The creature looked at me as if I said a funny joke. A small smile formed on its face. He even chuckled. It said,
Why are you here, you ask? Well, you are here to end it all. We want you to do it.
I asked why. The being smiled so wide it looked like an expression from the darkest of places. It looked painful. Then it explained.
We have studied you for many years. You do not think like your kind. You think like us. We share a hate of ignorance and disgust in humanity and their view of sanity. Sick sanity. You look at them as we do. We want you to end everything because they are still here.
I asked it why he wanted me in particular to do it, and why they couldn't just do it themselves. The creature smiled so wide, tears began to fall from his eyes. Then he continued.
Everything still remaining of man. Buildings, the tools, the humans, all of it is sickness. We have been here during the beginning of human life, and in being around humans for so long, we have developed traits from them. We are contaminated. We are not what we are meant to be.
To this I replied, Don't underestimate my intelligence. I know your tales of woe and your history, but you're not asking me to.
Yes, after all that remains of humans are gone, we ask you to save us from ourselves. Kill us all, please. We cannot bear to do it, to become like them.
With the combination of piteous tears and a gleeful smile, I asked him how I would do it. It pointed to my surroundings. I admired my surroundings. Behind me I saw sharpened metal pipes, but they had a surgical-like quality, as though they each belonged in a specific place in the body. They were dripping a dark brown liquid at the sharpened ends. It smelled like crude chemicals.